So today I wanted to talk about something broad, which are the challenges in K12 education. K12 meaning the school years where teenagers go through a series of curriculum demands and that may expose them to different ideas and conflicts of opinions and things that they are required to develop in order to be successful in their academic journeys. The first question is, when do you start debating issues? And this is a very generic approach that I take. When do you start a conversation? And you can make a list of things that you're not supposed to talk about up until a certain age, and then the things that you're supposed to introduce and when you're going to introduce these things. And on a related subject, I said, when do you tell your kid, look, this is the internet? This is the internet. When do you show the internet to your kid? I think based on this discussion and based on data that we have on how soon kids, actual kids, are getting in contact with the internet, we're going to have a more reasonable approach, a more realistic approach to when we can introduce certain types of debates. Because what are they watching? What are the programs talking about? What is the subject matter of a you can talk about a cartoon, like the cartoons have ideas that are explored, and it's not so silly. There are values that are debated, and I'm not a specialist in kids education or kids entertainment, but there's a lot of things that very soon you start to have contact with. And one of the things is bullying. And addressing bullying is something that should be very soon, should happen very soon. I'm talking about like 4 to 6 years old here. I'm talking about your son being 3 years old and screaming at the dog and just saying, no, the dog didn't do anything to you, don't do this to the dog. Even sooner than that, like, learn to live with the dog, like the dog is your friend, like inputting this kind of mindset that, like, it's not because it's a different animal that apparently is more or less the same size as me, and I'm growing older and I'm getting bigger, that I'm gonna start bullying the dog. No, don't bully the dog. Hashtag don't bully the dog. So kids who grow up with dogs, for example, have certain things that they learn often because their parents tell them, look, you gotta take care of this animal. You gotta take care of this living being. You gotta be friends with this living being. You gotta respect it. You gotta create bonds. And they learn through that. But if we move on to more complicated subjects, like what's supposed to be social debate without talking about society? Social debate meaning the problems we have in society, like poverty. What is the cause of poverty? And then you can have a lot of context of modern teaching and modern media, which is going to be based on memes to explain or at least start a discussion on poverty. The 1% is this, and the billionaires shouldn't exist, and this kind of thing. Privilege, a discussion about privilege. if you have in your classroom the in-person classes are not something I can comment on, because since the pandemic I've been very much outside of the scope, but we shouldn't forget that we're dealing with people who live in different settings and different circumstances. So maybe you're talking to a kid who is living in a poor neighborhood, and another who is like has the latest video games and streams on Twitch and has all these internet contacts, and if somebody disturbs their attention and says something about them, they're gonna be back and they're gonna be bullies. And it could be something that happens when a person is trying to participate in a group is completely dominated by these people who have the power through the access to technology, and when this person tries to participate in that discussion, is completely crushed by the person who already dominates the network. So this is a discussion about society, but it's actually about social media. What is talking about social media? What is talking about society without talking about social media? This is a question that is fundamental to answer. I mean, we're not. It doesn't make sense to talk about something that we built to connect society and not address its problems. And its problems are hate speech and violence and threats and discourse that is not appropriate, and stalking and many of the related subjects that are inconveniences and not welcome in the communities where people participate. But a lot of people want to be welcomed because they're new and they're trying to get into a certain community. As a personal example, Tumblr, for example, is an international community. I was trying to understand Tumblr, and I made contact with a lot of people. Some of them said, "Hey, thanks for sharing your story. Nice to hear from you. Hit me up anytime. We can talk as much as you want. Just let me know what your thoughts are on a day, and I'll listen to you." And some people are like, "Okay, I don't want to talk to you," and they blocked me. And so there are mixed reactions, and people have mixed reactions on social media all the time. The easiest thing to do on social media is to use the block button, and some people say it's the best thing, but I don't support that. I have received a lot of hate mail, so to speak, but sometimes the block button wasn't available for me. Like, I couldn't report, I couldn't block, and I just processed the whole thing, and here I am after all of these things happened to me, like massive bullying and massive attacks on my person and attacks on my security, and I basically survived all of this, and I managed to, at least I tried to protect some people from it, but I don't know if they were fully protected, and I would like to be in contact with people who use social media and are comfortable in using social media because it's safe. But now discussions are getting into a little bit of a tricky situation where what's safe and what's not is determined by algorithms and machines. And so we can have, for example, a conversation about sex, not even including explicitly sexual pictures in videos, but a discussion about sex, and this could be cut from the platform because it's not appropriate. Like, these are people who are against sex education, and this is essential. Sex education should be introduced as much as, if we're being rigorous and if we're being consistent with our approaches, if a 13-year-old is legally allowed to use the internet with parental supervision, as they say in the legal terms, then it follows that they're going to be in contact with whatever the other kids are doing. And what the other kids are doing is, if you look at it, they're talking about sexual themes. Just listen to the music they listen to, like participate in a group chat, like populate the same groups as they do, and you're gonna see that this is very, very frequent. And you have to kind of dig in to find out what's really going on. And they don't like it when they see somebody who is trying to invade their space. They want to claim that space for themselves. But if we don't understand what they're talking about and the level of things they're talking about, we're never going to solve the problem. We're never going to find a solution for sex education in the curriculum. So we got to do our best trying to guess what they're talking about, trying to guess what the problems are, and then proposing an approach and a discussion that we will then moderate. But the moderation is not easy. Moderation is not at all easy. It's very easy to be offended as a teacher because you propose a discussion. It's very easy. It's very easy. If I propose in a classroom that sanding is normal, for example, I'm going to be like, there's going to be a student who's going to say, "Oh, you're a pervert, teacher. You're a pervert." And my reputation is going to go down the drain. I'm going to have to respond to my supervisor. My supervisor is going to be like, "Well, you can't address this in the classroom. I'm sorry." But the real situation is the teenager is being a bully. The teenager sends, the teenager shares, the teenager leaks, the teenager lies about it, the teenager shames, the teenager shares it with groups with their friends, the teenager hacks, the teenager does a bunch of things damaging other people, and it should be our role to say, "You're not allowed to do that. These are not the rules. The rules are these." And then you present them. So there's a lot of things happening on social media with teens that need to be addressed. What's talking about social media without looking at the media's role in general in the past? This is a topic of discussion that I will just indicate my Substack for people to read, evilbr.substack.com. Just go there and you see what I'm talking about. Just go there. Is it worth talking about how things used to be when everyone's trying to build the future? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. It's good to have a historical perspective. It's good to have the idea that when Facebook came up, we didn't know what social media was in Brazil. We didn't know what the internet was. We knew Orkut, we knew things like that, but we didn't really grasp the social media experience that Facebook was proposing to people. Like, what's your name, what's your age, what's your address, what's your family members, what's your political leanings, what's your favorite music, what's your the news that you consume, and then everything put together, analyzed by marketing companies to offer you content back for years and years, that in a system that will be monetized, and then will suggest that you become a creator, but will never pay you back because you gave them too much information and now you have nothing to give back that has the same value. It's a system that needs to be deconstructed. How are people building the future if they're actually destroying the platforms? Good question, right? You can see this with Twitter, things that have been proposed that are absolutely insane. And I'm not only talking about like paying for subscriptions and things like that, I'm talking about the structural changes in the network, the adoption, shamefully, of the For You tab on Twitter was a major disruption of the network, and we saw this in many social media platforms. Can you name the people, can you even name the people and the companies responsible for the mess we're in? I don't know. There are moderation companies. There are moderation companies behind social media. Amazon Web Services moderates content, as Accenture moderates content. Cognizant moderates content. And so we should learn about these companies, learn about what they do, and watch a seminar or two on YouTube to see what their decision making is like and what they're dealing with. But I think overall, reduction of hate speech, violence, threats, and defamatory speech and fake news and targeting of people for advertising purposes that are clearly not fair to the people who are being talked about are going to be important to discuss, and we're going to see some changes in the social media landscape in this year, and I'm looking forward to enriching these discussions and especially contributing to the educational materials that are going to be produced based on these reflections. This is Ivo from Participatory Fluency, and thank you for watching.